This month's podcasts are sponsored by Aubergine Legal. Do you sometimes worry that your business isn't meeting all its legal compliance requirements and wonder if you're ticking all the legal boxes? Are you losing sleep worrying about a piece of legislation that you may or may not be complying with? Perhaps you need some help with your client contracts or your data protection compliance. Or maybe you're worried that your website doesn't have the right documents or legal notices in the right place. Perhaps you have a brand that you want to protect with a trademark. How about if you could outsource it all and eliminate all of your worries? If so, then get in touch with Aubergine Legal, a friendly commercial legal consultancy offering practical and clear commercial legal advice without the overwhelming legal jargon, taking the worry away and helping you to protect your business and minimise your risks. Aubergine offers a free 30-minute consultation if you have any questions or want to find out if they can help, and you can access this link and book your free 30-minute call via the link in the show notes.
Welcome to the Bring Your Product Ideas to Life podcast. Practical advice and inspiration to help you create and sell your own physical products. Here's your host, Vicki Weinberg.
Hi, how are you? First of all, welcome back. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and New Year period, and that if you took some time off, you got a chance to relax, and that you didn't miss the episode that didn't come out last week too much, and thank you for coming back today. So I don't record that many solo episodes recently, and this is 2 in a row, which is probably a bit of a record. I don't know whether you want to hear more from just me, actually. If you do, let me know. It's vicky@vickiweinberg.com. Genuinely interested if you'd like to hear more from just me, as well as, of course, all the guests that I like to feature. The reason for another solo episode is I just wanted to update you on some things that are going on with me and my businesses. So many of you will know that I have a products business. I sell bamboo baby products alongside my consultancy. That was actually the business that kickstarted all of this. For those of you who've heard my story before, I won't go into it in great detail, but basically when I set up my business selling baby products, I set up a blog alongside it, sort of document what I was doing, and then on the back of that I got lots of people asking for help and advice, and eventually that became this business. So I don't know if this will be a surprise to anyone or not, but I'm going to let you know that I'm actually in the process of closing my baby products business, and I wanted to first of all tell you that was happening and then also explain why. So going back quite a way now to early 2020, so it was actually March 2020, I launched this podcast. And I have to say, this podcast is one of my favourite things to do. I've always loved listening to podcasts. I say always, since I got into podcasts. I'm not sure if I was an early or late adopter of them, but since I discovered podcasts, I love podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. And I really felt that creating a podcast was something I could do. I was really inspired, I think I've shared this before, to create a podcast that focused on interviewing small business owners and those at the beginning of their journeys who are still right in it, or recently through those early stages and knew what that was like and had some really great advice for others, and also speaking with experts who work predominantly with small businesses, because I felt there were lots of podcasts out there speaking to people who had huge businesses, but I think for them the early stages were quite a long, they were quite a way out, and I wasn't sure if their business, if their information, while it is relevant, I feel like there's nothing more relevant really than hearing from people who are going through the same thing as you, or a similar thing to you at a similar time, or they're not that much further ahead. So anyway, I launched a podcast. I love the podcast, but the podcast does take time because I have to plan out episodes, record episodes, find guests, prepare for interviews, have the interviews, edit the episodes, and there's the show notes. There's a whole lot of admin that goes on. I have to say now I do have help with some of all of that. So thank you to Jenny, who helps me get these episodes out, but it still does take a lot of my time and I love it. And at the same time as launching the podcast, this was March 2020, in the UK we went into a lockdown, we went into homeschooling, more and more people started shopping online. Tiny Chipmunks, that's my baby brand, had the best sales ever, mainly helped by Amazon, because back in 2020 when we were in the UK lockdown, Amazon actually restricted sellers from sending products into their warehouses, and there were only certain categories that you could send in, and baby products was one of them. And I guess with, the fact that high street shops were shut, more people, like I say, shopped online, and Tiny Chipmunk did really, really well for me. And I think I might have mentioned this in a previous episode. While I was busy homeschooling and trying to keep this business afloat and trying to get a podcast episode out every week, it was really reassuring that I was just making sales. However, on the other side of that, as more businesses sort of went online, and this business, my consultancy, got a lot busier because I was helping a lot more people get onto platforms like Amazon, and I really, really struggled to keep on top of it all. I think I did a fairly good job, but it wasn't easy, and a lot of things did just slip away. Plans I had, projects, ideas, just didn't happen. So I had some new products I was hoping to launch in 2020. That didn't happen. I was in the process of finding a new supplier in Turkey, which was for lots of reasons. I had a fantastic supplier in China, but I didn't particularly want to manufacture in China long term. And obviously with everything going on with COVID, there were lots of production delays, shipping costs were going up, then there was Brexit, and that all just got put to one side. And then my contact on Turkey went on maternity leave, and it just got left at that. And that's my fault for not being more proactive. We got to the end of 2020, which I think for all of us in various ways was tricky, and I got to the end of the year and thought, actually, I've neglected Tiny Chipmunk, my baby business, for most of the year. And it was probably down to part luck and partly the years of work that I'd put in already that my products were still selling well, and actually still sell well now. I feel really fortunate for that, because I had honestly neglected that business at the beginning of the year, just before the pandemic. And by complete coincidence, I'd sort of changed my shipping model. So a lot of my products went into a warehouse, and they were sending orders out for me from the various marketplaces that I was selling on. And I'm really thankful that I did that before everything happened, because that meant I was still in a really good place to just keep fulfilling orders. But I hadn't been ordering new stock, I hadn't been developing new products, and I really feel that I'd neglected it, if I'm honest. And I was feeling really, really burnt out, and I knew that something had to give. I'd been through the same thing a few years before this, actually, when I decided to shut down my yoga business to focus on Tiny Chipmunk and this consultancy, which was really early. So some of you might know that I used to teach yoga to babies and children, and I was still running that business alongside my other two businesses. I can't remember for how long. It was at least a year. It was quite a long time anyway. And in the end, I decided to walk away from that because I just couldn't sustain it. I wasn't even teaching classes then. I had teachers that were teaching for me, and I was just sort of managing the business, but it was just one thing too many. And so I went into 2021 thinking, okay, I really haven't done much of this business, and didn't feel great about that. And then another lockdown in January 2021 was the final straw. And that was when I made the decision that actually I can't do it all, and something has to stop. And it wasn't going to be the consultancy, and it wasn't going to be this podcast. So I decided that I was going to close Tiny Chipmunk. It was a really hard decision. The business is really personal to me. I do feel like it's kind of the beginning of everything, business-wise for me, because if I hadn't had that business, I wouldn't have this podcast, I wouldn't have the consultants I have now, I wouldn't have the experience I have on platforms like Amazon. And the business is actually even named after my daughter, because we used to call her a Tiny Chipmunk when she was little, because she was teeny with these big cheeks. But I decided that actually what I really want to do is focus more on my clients and the people that I can help, as I still have limited time, and I get so much more out of helping others than I do from selling my own products, if I'm really honest with you. When I first launched my own major products, I used to get really excited every time someone brought one, or I'd see someone using one in the street, and I still have that to an extent, but now I get more excited when someone I work with sells loads of their products, or they get a really good review, or I see someone using their products. I'm genuinely thrilled for them, and I'm getting so much out of that. I genuinely love and enjoy what I do. I don't know whether it's because I've discovered a bit of a gift. I mean, I hope I'm good at what I do. I think maybe it's also partly because I feel like I'm part of lots of little teams, because lots of the businesses that I work with, even though they're bringing me on as an advisor, I get to know them and I get to know a team, and I have lots of contact with people and I have lots of Zoom calls, and I just feel like I quite like the collaboration. I don't feel quite as isolated as I did, if I'm honest. And I guess the main thing is I don't have room for two businesses, I don't think. Not if I also want to be there for my children, who are still young and were actually a big motivator in the first place. A big part of, well, in fact, almost all the reason that I started Tiny Chipmunk was because I wanted to be able to work flexibly around my children. And yeah, I do still work flexibly around my children, but I did find last year particularly that I was working more than I wanted to, and I just felt like really, really stretched. So throughout 2021, I was gradually, quietly shutting things down. So closing down some of my sales channels, selling off some stock. And where I am right now is I still have some stock left and it is selling down quickly. I haven't brought in any new stock. So I decided, when I made that decision at the end of 2020 or beginning of 2021, I decided, okay, I'm not going to order any more stock. I'm just going to sell down what I have. So I'm still doing that. There's very, very little left. And I'm also in the process of finding some causes that I can donate stuff to. So if you're listening and you know of any great causes that could make use of baby items, do let me know, because I'm genuinely thinking I don't need to sell all my excess stock. I'm so happy if there's a charity or a cause that could make use of it. I'm really, really happy to donate it, because for me, I almost feel like I need to at some point sort of draw a line and move forward, because, as I say, the main reason I'm doing this is because I feel really stretched. So yeah, the reason I'm telling you all of this is because, well, a few reasons. One is that I appreciate it might be odd for me to encourage you to sell your own products when I'm no longer doing it myself. And I always want to be upfront and I always want to be honest. I mean, probably I could have just shut everything down and not said anything and nobody would notice, but that's not really my style. I would always rather be honest and open with you. And just to be clear, I still do think a products business is a great business, and I'm actually not ruling it out for myself forever. I have other product ideas that I'd quite like to explore, and it's actually really exciting because when I had a baby products brand, all of my product ideas and all of everything I was thinking of doing was kind of in that niche, and some of the ideas that I had just, you know, outside of that, and I was thinking, oh, I can't do that because that's like another business. But I'm actually quite excited that I could potentially, in the, I don't know, short to medium term, launch some new products, and they're going to be completely different and not under the same brand. And I think that's quite exciting. When I say short to medium term, who knows when I have the time to do that, but I have some ideas and definitely not ruling it out, and it's quite exciting to be able to do that. And I guess the bottom line is I just know that right now I can't support my existing clients, produce this weekly podcast, take care of my family and run all of the businesses. It's too much, and something has to give, and that is what's given. So that is really all I have to share today. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update because, as I say, I just want to be honest about everything. I'm really happy to answer any questions you have about any of this. So you can just get in touch. It's Vicki@VickiWeinberg.com. I'll put that in the show notes, or you can get in touch with me on Instagram or on Facebook. Normal service will resume next week. I know it's been a few weeks since we've sort of had the normal schedule. So we have some more amazing interviews from product business owners and experts. And I'd really love to know, do you like the solo episodes? Maybe not this one in particular or the last one, because I appreciate I haven't been sharing much that might be useful for you. But overall, should I do more solo episodes? And if so, what would you like me to talk about? So email me. The email address again is Vicki@VickiWeinberg.com. Again, that'll be in the show notes. And let me know. Really happy to, within reason, do an episode on any topic as long as it's going to be useful for you. So yeah, with all that said, thank you so much for listening, and really hope to see you here next week. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed it, please do leave me a review. That really helps other people to find this podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and do tell your friends about it too if you think that they also might enjoy it. You can find me at vickyweinberg.com. There you'll find links to all of my social channels. You'll find lots more information, all of the past podcast episodes, and lots of free resources too. So again, that's vickyweinberg.com. Take care, have a good week, and see you next time. If you've been inspired to start a podcast in 2024, I really recommend my podcast host, Captivate. Captivate were my top pick when I started podcasting 4 years ago because of how easy it was for a complete novice like me to get started. I've stuck with them for the last 4 years because Captivate is still really simple to use. They keep adding great new features like the ability to share ads like these, and they've just been really reliable. So when you're ready to start your own podcast, you can use the link in the show notes and get a free 7-day trial with Captivate.